You're live.
Hello, hello, hello. I am Sylvia Hayes, and welcome to Good News at Primetime. Today, we're going to talk about the environment in the Black community. As you know, there's a lot of things going on in the Black community that doesn't necessarily happen in the white community, like what? A lot of pollution, dumpsters, and all that other stuff. Police brutality doesn't necessarily happen in all the white communities. They have a little bit, but blacks get the bulk of it. Okay, so we're going to talk about the environment from pollution to everything, schools, all the good stuff. And in the meantime, you are watching Good News at Prime Time, and I have to give a plug in for my book, Good News at Prime Time. Okay, so not Good News at Prime Time. I am so sorry. Power Thoughts. Power Thoughts. So that's my book. It's very empowering. And this month I'm doing a special, a Loving Me special, on the ebook. So February the 12th through the 28th of February, you can get the special. Go to tinyurl.com/Power Thoughts book. So you got it? tinyurl.com/Power Thoughts books. Okay, so you can Power Thoughts book. Okay, and you can get that book. Yeah, it's a very powerful book. Teachers are using it in their schools now. Uh, so many people have been helped from it, and I just want to help everybody. That is my goal, to save the world, especially the youth. Okay, so support, the youth by supplying them with this book. Okay, and so to help us with our conversation today is my co-host, Mr. Reggie Drummer. Hey, Reggie, how are you doing today?
What's up there, Miss Sylvia? I'm doing great. I'm holding up on my own end over here, as you see. On this side, hold up your own end. So I'm doing that. And it's good to be over here. We have to let everybody know to like, share, subscribe over here at Square Mile Media Atlanta. And one of the great
Right.
products over here is the Good News of Primetime show. And I know we're excited about tonight. There's a lot going on, and we want to share some good news, and I think we will.
Yep, I believe we will. My screen is frozen. Okay, there we go.
Is that better?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
We lost
Ah,
Miss Sylvia, Reggie.
okay. Well, tonight's show, and she'll join us. We're going to be talking about the environment in the Black community. I'm excited because it's Black History Month, and a lot of times we have to pay attention to what's going on locally in our communities. And a lot of times when you look at Black and brown communities, some of the harder disparities uh, happen in our community. Yeah, there's a lot of love in our communities. There's a lot of family. There's a lot of support in our community. But every now and then, there's some outside entities that infiltrate our community. And we wanted to talk about a little bit of those tonight. Even though it's Black History Month, and we continue to celebrate and bring uh, important information when it comes down to our communities. When we think about people that come out of our communities, whether they go into politics, whether they go into entertainment or anything out there, our communities produce a lot of people against a lot of odds. Okay, and some of those odds are not good, but no matter how hard uh, our communities have been hit, we produce some of the best talent, some of the best people out there. And tonight we're going to share some things. I know Sylvia, you'll share some things with us about just what happens in a lot of our Black and brown communities. And it just didn't start yesterday. When you look at, let's take a community in North Georgia, which we know of today as Lake Lanier, but that used to be a vibrant community, and the Corps of Engineers flooded it, and now you got Lake Lanier. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like that in so many places. New York, the park that's there, that used to be a vibrant black and brown community, and gentrification and eminent domain changed the whole landscape of that area. So a lot of times, railroad tracks, when it comes down to uh, different sides of the town, you can always tell what side of town we on because we cross the track.
Mm-hmm.
But
And you know, Lake Lanier, they said some of those houses are still under there. So they
oh
just
yeah,
flooded out. They're still there.
yep, they're still there. Well, when they did it, uh, they just flooded it,
Mm-hmm.
and they gave the people. They didn't give them. They gave them an ultimatum to get out of town, and then they paid them a little bit of money for the property. So some people did hang on and stay on, but one of the things, and the spirits of our ancestors is still there. That's why when you look at black and brown people, anytime there's a community that's been robbed or taken from us, there's always like a curse on that community. Now, not to put it out there this hard, but if you're from Atlanta, you already know. Uh, all the
Mm-hmm. But all
stadiums,
those deaths out there.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
even Lake Lanier and the stadiums are built on property that was seized incorrectly from black people. That's why they say the Braves don't have a winning season. That's why they say you can change the name. It went from what Fulton County Stadium to Hake Area Stadium, and even out there in Cobb. But anytime you take and displace black people, there's a stigma attached that even that rides continuously. Even the football stadium, when they displace churches and displace people's community for the forward movement of the community, these things happen.
Yeah, it does. And you know they did little Africa town like that too in Mobile. In the
Mm,
area they took the land and put a highway through the middle of it. Dividing the city.
right. Well, and you can think our Eisenhower. You remember, I think when they first started the interstate system, a lot of black and brown people had just came off of World War II. And if they did get some property through the GI Bill, they built homes. Well, 10,
Mm-hmm.
15 years later, because we didn't have a political foothold, or we just weren't looked at as being, our property as being equal. A lot of the highway systems cut right down into the hearts of black communities. Okay, and
Right.
all of that started in the 50s under Eisenhower when they started the interstate uh, highway system. So you know, um, there's some pros and cons. I did share earlier that there's a lot of love in our community. I don't care how bad it looks, the hood, even though it could be crime, it can be disease, a whole lot of things, but we still rise above all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Matter matter of
Yeah.
fact, it's more of us come out of bad neighborhoods that come out of good neighborhoods. That might change in the future.
Yeah. It is a lot of them, and there's so much environmental injustice though
Ooh.
in the black community, even with the healthcare system.
Mm-hmm.
So many black people get inadequate health care. And like black women, they lose a lot of babies way more than the whites because they don't have the health care and
Right.
because they don't pay attention and see about it when they are in the hospital. They just let
Well,
them
yeah,
go you
yeah.
know and a lot of doctors feel like that black people don't know anything. They think they're dumb. So when a person is trying to tell the doctor something about their bodies, they won't listen to them,
Mm,
because they know better, and the black person don't know their own body.
yeah.
And so the black people, a lot of time they suffer because they listen to the doctor. So there's a lot of disparity there too.
Yeah.
A lot
And
of
well, you look at uh, in other population groups, the closest thing that comes to a lot of black neighborhoods is trailer parks. Okay, but
mm-hmm.
you don't have a lot of folk, well, white people living in trailer parks. When you look at the cities, urban areas, you got areas 100,000, 200,000 people. Trailer parks are very small, but they do suffer some of the same problems as urban areas. When people have to go into the trailer park, not all of them because they don't upgrade them a little bit better, but uh, especially the mid '70s, and trailer parks and black neighborhoods were almost like that. And then that's when they said, well, okay, we've given them the worst piece of land to have. Okay, if you
Mm-hmm.
live in urban areas, it's hard to grow crops, so that land is not good from the start. And when you add in waste, environmental waste, when you chemicals, a bad water supply, uh, and those are just low lining. They important, but those are low lining. When you look at chemicals for the spillover of plants, uh, coal producing plants, and when you look at the water supply uh, that's been contaminated, and then when you look at the air quality that's been contaminated, when you look at all our cities, Detroit, Chicago, New York, uh, even Los Angeles, the air quality is horrible. So a lot of our people suffer from respiratory disease. When you look
Mm-hmm.
at Flint, Michigan, all the places where they made all the cars up in Detroit, and steel mills down in Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh, the quality of health is very poor. And then when you look at down south, urban areas, the spillover from water, where you've allowed these chemical companies to dump their filth into the rivers and streams, and it polluted and caused bad problems for people's health. When you look at uh, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, matter of fact, I look at a company, Merck. Merck is a company that, well, it's a medical company. You think medicine would
Mm-hmm.
be safe to put back in the river? Well, that land and that company, when I was growing up, that was one of the largest companies. Looked like in Albany. It looked so large because it was
Mm-hmm.
right there by the river. But that land is contaminated.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
Oh yeah,
I believe it
and
because even though it's a pharmaceutical company,
mm-hmm.
they put out bad stuff. That's why
Oh
they
yeah,
dump it.
the
Yeah.
residue and see now, and so why we have to be proactive when we look at leadership, when we look at uh people that we trust to take care of us. Uh, That's one of the biggest things. These companies that come in and they do about 30, some of them do 50, 60 years. I think um, Georgia Power had a coal plant down at the bottom of my hometown, and they closed it down around 2000. Well, it
Why they
had been,
close it?
oh, well, it was polluting the air and contaminating the water.
Oh,
And
okay.
when you
Yeah.
look at that, that's why you have a lot of people with respiratory problem, diabetes, high blood pressure, and things of that nature. When those companies move, and then when those companies move, well, even candy, believe it or not, candy has a peppermint candy in particular, chocolate. They got a residual side effect when they got to, you know, uh, dispose of those chemicals. Sugar is just like disposing gas.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
highly flammable, all those things. So when you look at, that's one of the environmental challenges. And then
Yeah.
when you look
And
at waste,
75% of the families that live in these manufacturing areas are black.
oh
And
yes,
so
yes,
and
we
they're getting it all the time. They're getting all the pollutants, kids coming down with cancer,
Right.
Even the ground sometimes is contaminated. They build their houses sometimes over ducts, stuff, waste,
Yes. Well,
and putting
it,
black people in that community. They putting
yeah.
them there. They
It,
ain't putting a whole bunch of white folks there. Yeah,
well,
so
true. And another thing in property, and I can just use my hometown. I remember when I was growing up, they called them lime sinks. These were sinkholes that
mhm,
that for blocks that you couldn't build nothing there. Well, guess what? After the flood, everything flooded, and they just made it where the sinkholes are now. They built they built some houses on top of the sinkhole, which
mhm,
was bad land because and you see it sometimes when you see uh, some of these buildings collapse, streets collapse because of the land itself was uh, was not safe. And so you just look at land, you look at bad water, you look at the air supply, and those are things that come from the well, we look at good jobs, but these jobs, that's what they're doing. They'll pollute, and because nobody wants a factory on their side of town.
exactly.
If they, I
No,
don't care who it is, just say Buckhead. If they had a choice of building a $1 billion factory, and they say it was going to have over 60,000 employees. It might just say they said, some large crazy number. Trust me, they're not gonna put it in Alpharetta. They won't put it in Buckhead, but
right.
they'll find somewhere on the south side of town to put it because they say, okay, we're gonna put something. It's gonna be on that side of town. And then when you look at
Mhm,
property value, when you look at schools starting to decline, we can even throw that in there. School systems uh, in our neighborhoods, when you don't see any schools being built, the only
mhm,
thing they can build, uh, and I remember a politician told me he said when the community when they close a school down, because see, you can't have a liquor store within so many you know blocks of a school.
right.
So that automatically makes it hard for a liquor store to be built in that neighborhood. So once they tear a school down,
You know, those
a
liquor
liquor
stores
store
come in there.
is coming in there. It's
They pop
easy.
up. Yeah.
They pop
Uh,
up. Is
and the thing is that they put it in the black communities. You see more liquor stores in black communities than you do anywhere, you know? And
right.
one of the other things I was going to say, uh, you know, let me find it now. Yeah, the pollutants or the manufacturers. When you when they create these manufacturers, they put them in the black community and the dumpsters. That's what I was going to talk about. The waste.
Ah,
When they want to find a new place to dump waste, they go to the areas where the black people are in the black
right.
communities.
Well,
For them to smell that stuff. Because I've driven by some of them, and in that
ooh,
area, it be stinking.
water
You know.
treatment plants. Well,
Uh
just
huh.
just just look at certain things, and I know we throwing all the doom and gloom out there, but like
Hmm.
water treatment plants, uh, and look here, we're looking at metal plants, hazardous waste, least uh, the imminent danger. We have to be more concerned about the environment that we live in, and our kids gonna be inside and live in.
Yeah, we
Uh,
do.
see,
And we
for
have to
one thing,
speak up too. When they're
right?
talking about putting that stuff in your area, people have to
Hmm.
speak up. Rather than just complain on the side. Speak up. I don't want this in my community. And
Mm.
sometimes, even though they force it on you, you might have to move.
Oh, and
Even,
metal. I'm looking at the article that we have here. They put, and this is in Atlanta, metal. Uh, you know, uh, whether it be in the water, and lead used to be back in the day, but here in Atlanta, you can take any city, USA. one of the things we have to be more proactive on is ensuring that our our leaders think about us, because a lot of times uh, the leadership on other sides of the town just won't allow certain things to be built. For instance, in my hometown, they were building solar panels.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know, everybody said, "Oh man, solar panels, no big deal." Well, there's a byproduct that comes from solar panels, okay? And the
Oh,
byproduct
really?
from solar panels is how they look. If you make them look just jacked up, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it makes the property value go down, okay, over a period of years. Now, if you look now, they started solar panels like roofing material. You know, they just don't lay
Mm-hmm.
them on the ground. These solar panels, what they were going to do, it was just an open pit of land. They was going to put a fence around it and throw these panels in the ground. It looked
Oh,
horrible.
yeah. I
Until the
thought
people,
putting them on the house, on top of on the roofs. I didn't know they were
well,
putting them on the ground.
well, it's less expensive to put them on the ground. Just lay them on the ground. Well, when you see a big field with solar panels, you talking about thousands of panels. Just imagine your neighborhood just flat, and you see like farmland, nothing but solar panels aimed up at the sun on the ground. Well, it took the neighborhoods to come together, because uh, it's the solar panels generate some heat, okay? Because
Mm-hmm.
you know you got the sun, you got all those mirrors. Well, the after they did a little bit more research, that's why you got all these companies now that'll tell you we'll put a roof on your house for free, a solar panel roof, but it can go
Yeah.
on your house on top, and it doesn't look as bad as being laying on the ground. You know, it's just like you can you imagine your neighborhood with everybody with about 10 dish satellites in the yard?
Yeah. Look a little bad.
It look
What
horrible,
you mean?
and your property value is gonna go down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it will. So they shouldn't do that anyway. I've seen those solar panels on the roof, and it's supposed to save you energy, you know,
Yeah.
but it's
Well,
save money on electricity. But those solar panels cost so much money.
yes.
Yeah, because
Uh,
I've looked into it. I'm going, dang, I'll be paying for this
mhm.
thing long after I pay my house off.
Well,
So,
you look at all kind of things, and then we're showing this thing about lead.
mhm,
So we have to be really, really proactive. Uh, you can't allow somebody else or think somebody else going to have your best interest. A lot of the politicians that say they might not live in the West End, so they don't really think about whether or not to check out the lead in the water, because they ain't got to
right,
drink it. You know,
right. And,
and
and,
when you
and you
look,
know, so many people have gotten sick from that water, and I would advise people to check their water every now and then to see what kind of chemicals in it, because that water it can be unsafe, even just to bathe in, because you know your pores are your skin, shall I say, are the biggest pores on your in your body, and they
yeah, the bigger
absorb a lot of
openings.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot absorb a lot, and if you have bad water to bathe in, you putting that in your body, so
right.
you don't
So
want that. And
so
a lot of
we
people they do drink bottled water instead of the faucet water. But then you have
mhm,
to be careful with that as well, because the plastic has chemicals in it that's
right.
bad for you.
And
So
depends on where you store them. You know, if you store them
mhm,
out in the elements, with the heat, the sun, you know, it causes carcinogens to be in the water. That's why they have to pull
exactly.
water for so many places. And you know, when you look at stores in our neighborhood, we have food deserts. When you look at some of the disparities of just urban black neighborhoods, you know, no live food, food deserts. And you know, I put it out there in my hometown. They just put a grocery store. They didn't have a grocery store in a 10-mile radius.
Really?
And when
Yeah,
I was
and
growing
you
up,
know some of the things. One of the things I've noticed too. Not lately. I haven't been paying attention to it, but I know some chain stores they'll put
mhm,
all the fresh food and good food in the white communities, and they will put the old looking fruits and vegetables in the black community and that old meat. You
mm,
know, and so
well,
the black people didn't have adequate food. They didn't
right,
have the freshest food like everybody else. If you want good stuff, you got to go across town or go in another
well,
community to get it. And that's
yeah,
not cool either. That's a bad environment right there. And then they're giving you all of this processed food,
hmm,
which gonna make you
well,
sick. It
yeah,
might be cheaper. They putting it in the black community because they think everybody black is
well,
poor. So they're
yeah,
giving you
well,
that cheap food that will
yeah,
make you sick, and you don't need that either.
right. Well, and you got to look at now. Some of this, I would say, a lot of this is political, because it's not by coincidence that the south side of town. We know we're looking at the article on the West End. Well, when the West End, sometimes we look at white flight.
Mm-hmm.
The West End, probably back in the 50s and 60s, was mostly white.
Oh, was it?
Oh yeah, West End, Greenbrier Mall, the Cab areas and places like that. But what happened? People paid a little bit more attention, I guess. And when the property, people started to buy homes. Like I say, after World War II, people started buying property. That's when black and brown people first started to really get their hands on some property other than
Mm-hmm.
farmland. Okay. So we
Mm-hmm.
came into the cities, and then by that time, they found out a lot of these factories, a lot of these places and spaces that had been operating since what, the 1900s, because they did the EPA and all those organizations like that, they did not exist back then.
Mm-mm.
Uh, See, the EPA, I forgot what year the EPA came, probably after the 60s. The EPA, they wasn't paying attention to the environment. They was just dumping stuff, and all these places, factories were letting residual water, whether it be just running to the streams and the rivers and what have you. So people started to sail, and then they moved out, and black folk came in. When black folk started coming into the cities and populating the cities, uh, they were sold a second bill of goods because nobody had that interest, 20, 30 years down the road. We were just glad to move somewhere and be in a place or city or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Your voice went down.
Oh, okay. Uh, can you hear me?
Barely.
I said we were, yeah. Is that better?
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
we were just glad to get somewhere. So we trusted our politicians, our leaders to do the right thing. Okay, and some people, in
Mm-hmm.
order to get certain deals or positions, they allowed certain things to be built or put into our community. Okay, and that's why we have a lot of those problems when you look at lead in the water. You look at air quality. Yeah, the EPA, yeah, the EPA didn't come out to 1970.
Mm.
That's the
Oh, okay.
environmental projection. So when you think about it, you say, man, that's a long time. And when you look at the 70s, that was right after Nixon, because that administration, Ford and all them. And then so people started to make shifts and get out of areas. That's when they first started pointing out lead problems. They weren't talking
Mm-hmm.
about lead problems in the early 60s, stuff like that. Air pollution.
Yep.
They started talking about that harder in the 70s and 80s when the EPA came out. And the
Yeah.
communities that got ignored was black and brown communities. And then you also look at a couple other things. You say, um, crime, because uh, when people started to move outside of the urban area, they still wanted to do some of the stuff they did. Okay, guys wanted to go to strip joints. They wanted to buy. Uh, they didn't want them out in their neighborhoods. Okay, they
Mhm.
didn't want nightclubs out there, but they didn't mind coming into the cities, and that's why you see and still see a lot of people that live in other areas come to the cities to do their dirt. So
Yeah.
when it came down to uh, anything that they didn't want to do in their house, they did in the cities. You know, politicians, all kind of people. You could hide in the city because we were down there. So a lot of people took advantage of our neighborhood, you know, by putting things into our neighborhood. Look at drugs. Drugs, you know, they've always been around, but they really started coming out in the 80s under the Reagan administration.
Mhm.
I mean, they were
Yeah.
just dumping truckloads because if you look at all the cities, uh, and because we had such a big drug problem, we couldn't focus on lead. We couldn't focus on air quality. We couldn't focus on how dirty the water was or who was taking our land or whatever, or the food supply. We was trying to survive because drugs, and then they start dropping guns and things into the neighborhood. So our community has been in a battle for years. And we're coming out of it. There's some hope.
Yeah, it is, and like you said, they've been putting that stuff in there. The environment, even as far as just having families together, they want to separate the families. They didn't have enough money to get food and stuff. You couldn't get money unless you were alone. Man had to leave the house, so that makes a bad environment too for the mother who has these kids and she needs to raise. So that was a bad environment right
Oh
there.
yeah, breaking down
Yeah,
the families.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
well,
Yeah, that was bad. And then in the schools, the kids are treated like they're less than. A lot of them are treated like they're less than. They could be smart as a whip, but they're treated less than, and
yeah,
that messes with their mental. They put a mental stigma on them. You know
yeah,
that I'm not as good as that person is. You know, or I better
right.
not do this because I get in trouble. Because black kids they get in trouble way quicker than white kids, not that they're doing more, it's just that they're
Well,
being punished more,
well, the
you know?
system, you get rewarded a harder justice for crimes. Again, looking at crimes that our young people do. If you go on different sides of the town because of money, power, and influence and white supremacy, uh, those kids don't get held to the same standards. You always got somebody that's going to say, well, that's my boy. Okay, he just boys will be boys. Well, we don't get a
Mhm.
second shot. Okay,
Right.
our young people don't get a
Or
second shot.
they get off because they're rich,
Yeah,
you know?
privilege and things of that nature, right? Now
Mhm.
those people in turn grow up. They're gonna either become better people or they're gonna become just worse people. But one of the things we can look at, I know we putting a lot of the doom and gloom out there, but some of, like I
Mhm.
said, some of the with all these disparities, our communities are still producing some great quality people.
Oh
One of
yeah.
the reasons, one of the reasons, and I don't care where you go, there's somebody always trying to buy black land that we
Mhm.
lived in. Even today, when you look at whether it be in the West End in Atlanta, people trying to come back. When you look at the South Side of Atlanta, Hapeville, College Park, East Point, people coming back. They let the bottom fall out. It is anywhere. Chicago, when you look at South Side of Chicago, when you look at Cincinnati, Ohio, they let the bottom fall out. And when the bottom falls out, people come back in and buy the land, for pennies on the dollar. And then they
Mhm.
rehab them or they tear everything down and build a whole new total community. When I first came in Atlanta in the 80s, Bankhead, home of the bounce. Simpson Road, all those places where they changed those names. And now you won't, 20, 30 years from now, we won't even realize or recognize Atlanta. The same thing with New York, Chicago, a lot of the cities that were strong cities in the 60s and 70s, those cities are no longer what we call chocolate cities.
Right. Yeah,
You know,
a lot has changed.
Atlanta is not really, when you look at it over the next 20 years, you won't recognize it. And there are a lot of cities that are losing their in town urban population.
Mm. The
And
in-town
when they,
urban population.
because look today, uh, you know, blacks that live in Atlanta tend to live in the suburbs.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
moving out. They pricing them out. You know, uh, and this is most
Exactly.
cities. They pricing you out. They go up on the prices, and then the people that come in, they looking for a different quality of life. You know, I was looking. I was in a neighborhood, and I was like, wow. I think I was coming down. I won't even say the name of the street I was coming down, but I noticed that they had a dog spa. They had built
Mm.
two new schools. Well, and they had a gym. A lot of things that people were like, man, I wish I could have this, or we could get this. Those things didn't
But
show up until.
you know what though? Some of that pricing them out is by design. They
Oh
plan to
yeah, I
do
believe.
that.
Oh yeah,
It's
urban
planned
development.
because years and years ago, a friend of mine called me and he said, Sylvia, you won't believe what I just heard. And he proceeded to tell me where he was driving on Emory campus. And he saw a
Mm-hmm.
whole bunch of cars out there parked, and he was wondering what was going on. He and his
Mm.
friend got out and they went into this building. It was pitch black in there, except for the stage. And the man on the stage was talking about how they're gonna buy up the land and how the black music is corrupting their children, and they're just gonna flood the city with white people so they can get white electors and all that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. I mean, they were planning this years and years ago, and then when the
Oh
lights came on, nothing but white people in there.
wow.
They've been
Well,
planning it.
okay. Well, now one thing we have to be proactive. Okay. Uh,
Yeah. But the, but
and
the
and
thing
we.
is, we do have to be proactive, but sometimes they have the upper hand because, like I know this man right now. He's a senior citizen. He just got a ticket because his house haven't been painted. You know how much
Okay.
it costs? A couple $1,000 to paint the house. He went to the
Right.
bank before this happened to ask for
Mm-hmm.
a loan. His house is paid for. He asked for a loan so he can repair his house, and they refused to give it to him.
Right.
But yet and still they're gonna give him a ticket, which gonna cost a lot of money. They're gonna keep on ticketing, and eventually they're gonna try to evict him because he won't paint his house. They're gonna take the house and fix it up and make a killing off of it.
Yeah.
Put him out of his
Well,
house
well, and
if things don't
one
work
of
right.
yeah. Now, one of the things I think that's happening now, you see a lot of people here in Atlanta. You got Killer Mike, Ti, and a couple of other entertainers that are buying back the hood. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and when they buy back the hood, they're not trying to put it back like it was. They're trying to make it better, and that's going to bring in a newer, younger population. One of the bad
Yeah.
things that happen with our older population of people, the reason many of our seniors in their 70s, 80s, and 90s are still trying to live in some of those homes, they weren't able to fix those homes up in their prime because they had so many things that were attacking the neighborhood, whether it was their health, they're dealing with the drugs, and the other disparities, property taxes in the neighborhood. When a lot of white people started to move out of the cities because of property taxes, we weren't paying attention, or we didn't, the way they broke it down, we didn't understand it. So we ended up paying more property taxes and getting less. We ended up paying more money to live where we were living, and we didn't give us enough money to do the necessary repairs on it. Now it makes it look like we were negligent. But
Mm-hmm.
there are some built-in practices that put us in a position where we can't take care of our property. Well, we got to look at stuff differently. That means families have to come together. If you got big mama or auntie, and whether her sons and daughters are in the prison system, we got to look and say, do we want to keep and maintain that home? There are people that are buying properties back, not just white ones, black people, because they say, you know what, we got to get in there and take a hold of this property, buy back the hood.
Yeah, but you know what? They are pricing these people, so many people who've been in their houses forever, they are going up on the taxes. Their homes are paid for, and they charging them more and more and more for home tax, property taxes, and some of them can't afford it and they end up losing their home. No, and
Right.
I don't think it's fair for you to work all these years, pay your house off, and then you're gonna continue to tax, and you go up and up, and then they can't afford to pay for it. And then you're gonna
Mm.
put them out of their home. A lot of people don't have nowhere to go. And I don't think that's right. I really
It's
don't.
not.
Why
Welcome to
would
them.
you go
Well,
up on my property tax because somebody else have a new house over there?
hmm
That
welcome to
that's not
America.
right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
unfair now. Uh, and we have to look at where we are and what can we do about it. Uh, it's for some reason it's never been in our favor when it comes down to our neighborhoods and our communities. Okay, so we
Right.
have to look and say to ourselves, well, man, we got to do something different. Okay, we got to put ourselves in a better position, and I think that's where black wealth uh, and long-term planning comes ahead.
Mm. Long time planning, yeah.
Yeah,
You
long
can
we
plan it.
yeah. Well, uh, I think I'm being optimistic. We have to do some long-term planning because we can't just say they got us. Okay. Now, even though
Mm.
it looks like the deck is stacked against us, okay, it just looks like we don't stand a chance. I believe that we still can, put forth effort to get things done in our community. That means we're gonna have to start having some meetings. That means we're gonna have to talk about something other than entertainment.
Yeah.
Who's doing this on TV? We got to start talking about what are we going to be doing in our neighborhood. How are we going
Yeah.
to protect our families? How are we going to continue to uh, expand our family legacy? Okay, and if we want to survive as a people, that's what we're going to have to do. Now, whether we do it in the cities in the urban areas, they're black and brown people coming out of the city, just like white people were doing back in the 70s. They're a lot of black and brown people are moving into the what we call the suburbs.
Hmm.
So they're saying, well, I'm not going to be down there with all that crime. I'm not going to be down there with all these high property taxes, no schools, poor amenities. So we're looking at stuff totally different now than we've done in the past.
Yeah. And some of it they still pricing them out of the inner city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you look at, I don't care what city you go to. If you look at New York, uh, you look at the city, uh, whether it be Harlem, the Bronx, Manhattan, Long Island. The population of black and brown people or poor people is pushed out. You know, Chicago, the
Hmm.
same thing. Detroit, pushed out. All those folk that used to be in Detroit, they didn't have nowhere else to go. They pushed them out. Now people are going back in buying property, and they're black and brown people buying property. And I'm
Yep.
gonna tell you the people that people are looking for when they selling property. I just talked to the young brother. He said he's looking for somebody that can pay XYZ dollars. But I know he wasn't talking to me. It
Uh-huh.
wasn't personal. And he was telling me about the different amenities. I'm like, man, it's in the hood. It sounded strange, but we've got people that have become more accustomed to asking for things. We got a lot of people care about what they eat. They care about what
Hmm.
what's in their neighborhood. They care about uh the facilities, amenities, if they got kids. Like I said, when I walk through that neighborhood, they got two pet shops. They got a pet spa and things like that, a gym. But that's a different type of person living there. And believe it or
A
not,
gym
also
for
black and
pets
brown
or a
people.
gym for the people?
A gym for the people and a
Okay.
pet spa. Veterinarian
Mm.
facilities, pet facilities. They even had a store similar like a Pet Smart where people can go in and get I call it high end pet food. So
Mm.
when you see and guess who was in there? Black and brown people.
Mm-hmm.
Not that their parents probably wouldn't be thinking about a place like that. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
but every generation uh regroups on how they look and think about something, especially now with COVID. People are looking at stuff different. People looking at their mamas, granddaddies, and ancestors and seeing that, okay, they were diabetic. Why were they diabetic? The water supply, the food they were eating. And a lot of young people are not putting themselves in that position. Now, some people, they still in that category, but a lot of younger people are eating better. They want to be
Mm-hmm.
in better environment, and all those things.
Yep. They are. They are. So let's talk about the work environment of Black people. Have you ever
Uh,
known anybody to not like their job because of the environment?
oh yeah, plenty of people.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty. I'm pretty. You know what? Uh, the, because of the conditions they have to work in. Believe it or not,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll just put this out there. People that used to work in chicken plants, okay, that's a
Uh-huh.
horrible place to work in. A chicken plant, a meat processing facility. Uh, those are horrible conditions to work in. Today's work people, look what's happening. Even in fast food, people are asking for more money. They have to give people
Mm-hmm.
signing bonuses to get them to work, you know. And these are black and
Yeah.
brown people asking for some of this money. Now it's hard to move and motivate folk without giving them the resources that they need. Now it's still an underlying area of people that probably don't assert themselves, working a job they don't. One thing that COVID did, it told you if you want to get rid of your job, you want to start a new career, it's a good time to do it. Hint, hint, clue, clue. Now,
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of people, especially younger people and older people, a lot of older people my age have retired early. They said, "Grandma, I ain't working no more. I'm coming out the workplace. I got tired of my job. So as soon as they told me I could get Social Security, I'm done.
They
Uh,
done.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
you can stick a fork in this, but that's meaning that look, jobs now have to be more. They have to think about the employees more, whether it's women employees and male employees, lesbian,
Mm-hmm.
gay, straight employees, foreign employees. They have to be more conscious of all that. And work environments are paying more attention to where their workers live. So they want their workers to be in a nice place where they got good schools. Because if you got a good school, guess what? Normally you'll work there longer because your kids in school. People tend to stay where their kids in school at. If you got good health benefits, you know, good areas where you can take and get optimize your health, people tend to work longer because guess what? They're not sick all the time. You know, all
Yeah, but
these
if
things.
there's a lot of stress on the job, they might stay there in that area and move on to another place. Because I've known people who just hated to go to work. I know this one guy. He we thought he had a heart attack, but he didn't have a
Hmm.
heart attack. He got real sick and he had to take out work for a couple of weeks. When he got
Mm,
better, um, he was supposed to be coming back to work. When it was time for him to come back to work, he got sick again. So
mm,
it was the
yeah.
job itself, the environment
Oh
of the
yeah.
job that
Well,
caused him to be sick and he couldn't come back to work.
yeah.
A lot of
Well,
people be like that. That's why we had those postal students.
well. Well, I used to work at the post office, and I always tell people I think I lived longer when I left. But now a
Yeah,
lot of that's got to go with how you think and feel about stuff. Okay. Now, like I said, in our communities, we built some strong, resilient people. Okay.
yeah,
We built some because of the communities. They say anytime you grow up in a harder condition, you tend to be a little stronger. You become a little bit more resilient. Now, some of the weaker people are growing up in uh, you know, where you got everything. Okay. Now, black and brown people are starting to experience that because we got more
yeah.
entertainers, we got more people with means. Uh, when I was growing up, you only had a couple of families that might have had some means, But as we get more educated, we send our kids to college. They come back with
Mhm.
great jobs. You know, uh, they're not doing the same thing their parents did. Then, therefore, they're not driving the same cars their parents drove. They're not living in the same type communities. You know, and especially now because you got a mixed generation of people. And what I mean by that is we got a hybrid population. When you look at some of our neighborhoods, the people that lived there 40 years ago, uh, they might have said, well, it's just going from white to black. Now these neighborhoods are being infiltrated by Asian people that live and work there, uh, different people from different parts of Africa, Europe. So you got a melting pot in the neighborhood. So guess what that does? That changes how uh, the different things in the neighborhood. That's why the politicians have to do better jobs because everybody like going back to the standard things that people want. They want a good school. They want products and services that they can afford. They want choices. So it's going to be hard to pigeonhole people in environments like that.
Yeah, but then you still got those people who still want segregated neighborhoods.
Yeah, but they dying out.
You think so? Well,
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, they don't
yeah.
have a choice. They either accept it or move on.
Look
Because
at
a lot of
Forsyth
people are
County.
moving in. Huh?
Yeah, when look at Forsyth County. When I first came to Atlanta area, Forsyth County, I worked with someone, and this was in '84. The guy told me Forsyth County was 101% white. Well,
Mm,
now when you go to Forsyth, it's a different population. You see, people have moved in, moved out there, and the population has changed. It's uh it's half and half. People have a lot of people have passed away, sold their farmland, moved somewhere else. So
mm,
evolution changes everything. Okay, now as a
yeah,
people, we have to keep up. We have to raise the bar on how we look and how we feel about things. And just don't accept things because people tell us with the internet and social media and all that type of stuff, you know, you don't have to accept something that somebody tells you is the only way that you can be or live. You got
right.
options.
Yeah. But a lot of people don't think that they might know they have options, or I might feel like they should have options, but sometimes they don't act upon it because they feel like it's against them. The power's against them. I won't have an opportunity. I want to do this, but they ain't gonna let me. Or they
Well,
come up with excuses not to do things. That's what.
yeah,
Then you got those people say, "I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna show them I can make it." Because I have thoughts and I have power too.
right.
But then you still got those people who control the money. I'm
Well,
not
yeah,
giving you any money for this bank. I mean, for
yeah,
your business. I'm not gonna loan you
yeah.
any money to buy this house. You
Well,
know.
I'm optimistic about the future generation of black and brown people. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, even with all the stigma that they attach to us, there are a lot of young people that are not going to be in the same category. They're not going to live in the same neighborhoods that didn't bring joy, pleasure. even work the same job. People looking at jobs that bring them pleasure, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a whole generation that's looking at different things. Yeah, there gonna be some people that want to hold you down, white supremacy and all that type of stuff. There gonna be people that gonna say your neighborhood is the worst neighborhood, you know, so they can come in and buy property cheap and rent it out to people. But there are gonna be more people that gonna use uh education from the past and see how it didn't benefit people by keeping us down.
Right. Yeah. But we're still rising. We're
Oh
still
yeah,
rising.
no doubt. Oh yes,
Yeah. And we're moving into the more affluent neighborhoods, driving the
right.
more affluent cars, even though, some people are afraid to do that too because they get stopped so often. Where did you
Hmm.
get this car? You stole it, you know? And that's what
Well,
that's what I hate about the environment, that's put out there. It's like,
hmm
why can't black people rise and do good without them having to be crooked?
well,
Why can't I
don't ever.
own a gun, be licensed and not
Hmm.
get killed just for
Right.
having a gun? You know, it's we the environment has to change.
Oh yeah. Well, it's going to change. Okay. You know, one thing about life, it involves change, and change is inevitable. Either you're gonna keep up or you're gonna get left. Okay.
Yeah.
It's no way. Many of the same things, like I say, uh, if you look at our population of people now, yeah, it's a lot of people. Just like with white people, you know, the broke, the poor. Now, there's still a lot of broke and poor white people. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but even everybody wants to uplift themselves, upgrade. Okay, and I believe that we're starting to look at that. We've been looking at it. Yes, a lot of obstacles, but look what's happening. People are putting it right in their face. They say, this is why black folk can't succeed. They can't get loans from banks. People are constantly polluting their water, polluting their air. Well, somebody got to do something other than wait till we get to heaven.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So things are being done.
Yeah. Things are being done. So we have reached that milestone now. And I do have to say that a lot have changed. A lot have changed, and there's stones been thrown against us, towards us, but we've managed to dodge it, and we've been
Right.
rising. We have been rising, getting our own businesses, inventing things. Since this is what, like the 7th day of February for Black History Month, 8, and I have learned so much already. I've learned a lot about Black people and how they're rising and how smart they are. And they want to believe that we're dumb and we're not smart, but Black people are smart. We have power.
Right.
Power. We have
Power
power
to the
right
people.
here.
No
Yeah,
doubt.
we have so much power. I mean, it's like a Black person invented the .com. A Black person invented the voice over the internet, so you can get on the phone and talk through the computer.
Right.
A Black person did that.
The
A
remote
Black person,
control.
yeah, a Black person made it possible for you to get somebody else's blood and still live. You know, we have power, and they don't
Right.
want us to have that power. We have invented so much and made life so easy for so many people, but they don't want us to have it. They don't want us to acknowledge it. So we have to share the knowledge, let the rest of the family, the generations know what geniuses we have in this
Black
family.
them up proud. Power to the
Yeah,
people. No doubt.
because there is so much, and even though we did the environmental thing, because it still exists, you can't ignore it.
Right.
It exists. You have to acknowledge it. When you acknowledge it, then you can go and do something about it. So I want to say we have the power. Learn your history and do something about it. So we're getting ready to get out of here. I just want to make sure you know about my book, Power Thoughts. It
Power
empowers
thought,
you to
power's
be
in us.
successful in life. Yeah, look that book up, and it is so good. It is so good. So power thoughts, we have power and we can do things, and you never let anybody dictate what you are or what you're gonna be. Because you know within yourself how strong you are, how wonderful you are, how brilliant you are, and you can't let other people dictate to you how you should feel about yourself. You know you feel good, then you feel good. You know there's power in the universe, there's power in the universe. So we're going to do that. Okay. We're going to think positive and be uplifting and know that things can happen and things do happen. There's a lot of history that's being kept away from us to make us think that we are worth anything. But we are worth something, and we have power, and we are doing so much around this world, in this country, in this city, even in the city, Black people are doing so much. They are so empowered. You'll be surprised at how many millionaires we have in here in this country, but they want you to think that we're poor, we're lazy, and don't want to do anything. And we're criminals. You know, black people are not the criminals. When
We
they
ain't the
do this
worst criminals.
they do this searching of guns and stuff. Always stop and search. Majority of the people that stop and search are Black people. But guess what? Majority of the guns are coming from the white people. They're the ones who have the guns. We're not the criminals. You might want us to be, but we're not the bad guys. Okay, there's a couple of them out there, but for the most part, we're loving people. We're decent people. We're forgiving people. We don't go around shooting up people because they're in our community. Anybody walk in
Right.
our community, there's love. Okay?
A
You can't say
threatening to
that
blow
when
up
we go to
schools.
somebody else. Huh?
Threatening to blow up schools.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Our schools are being threatened. And that was so disheartening. Because way back, we didn't have a school. You wouldn't let us go to your school. Okay, we built our own school, and now we're getting threats to keep us from getting educated. No, no. We're going to get educated. We're going to learn all we can because we know we have the power. And so until then, we're going to say power to the people, and we're going
Power
to
to the
see you
people.
guys next week. Y'all have a good one. This is Sylvia Hayes and Reginald Drama on Good News at Prime Time. And be sure you check out our Facebook pages and give us a hit up, okay? Y'all have a good day. Good evening.